already leaders. Yeah.
Exactly. Yeah. And again, there was differences between the beginners and the elite.
that was the question I was going to ask. Is was there a much clearer, decision tree that the experienced coach was going through?
I think yes, the experienced coach, but again, they missed out on the novice stuff again. Okay. So it was a similar sort of pattern to the swimming coach. Now, that could be because the methodology we used was the same and it just produced the same results. But it was fairly clear that the coach, the more elite coach, had a much more sophisticated decision chain and set of decisions to make.
Here's the question for you then. What do you think led to them not being able to have much effect on the beginner? Because in my mind as a coach, I would think that there would be fundamental movement patterns, for instance, with a tennis serve. I think to running, and I look at a young kid and I look at an elite. I don't see that what I'm looking at, although they can't do the same things, is different.
Yep.
So what do you guys sort of apportion that to?
Look, I can't remember if we actually talked about that in the thesis. It was more to do with just the.
Well, what's your?
Well, my take here on it is that that the elite coach is looking for things that just aren't there with the beginner at the moment, because they just don't have either the strength or the coordination or whatever to actually perform the tasks in a way that's appropriate. So if they went back to try and teach that, the kid probably just isn't going to get it. And it's just too hard for them. I think I see that a bit in some of because as I said, I coach juniors, and I've tried to at times apply a sort of senior coaching model to them, and it just doesn't work.
Yeah, you've got to. It's interesting you say that, because I know that I can't remember exactly which European country it is, but essentially they talk about the fact that their best coaches. I think it might actually be in Charlie Francis's book. Controversial or not, but it's a good read. He's saying that in Poland, when it was Jared Mark, wasn't it?
That was the guy. Yep.
Spoke about the fact that when you're there, the best coaches don't coach necessarily the elites; they coach the development groups because they want to give the best coaching to the people on the way through.
Exactly. Yeah.
So it's interesting you say that some of those elite coaches that you've taken from these studies actually probably may not have had as much effect on those development pathways.
And it depends and that's the question we didn't ask, where did you come from?
Yes.
So were you an elite tennis player? So you already have that, you know what you're looking for, because you've always been watching the person at the other end serving at you and you're thinking, shit, they've got a rocket serve, and you pick that up straight away. Whereas trying to teach a junior how to do that stuff is just virtually impossible. So there's those sort of things as well.
That makes me think straight away, because we see this example in healthcare all the time, and I think it happens in coaching a lot. I've noticed it quite a bit. Is people want to jump straight to working with elites, because obviously there's notoriety associated with I work for an elite sporting team,
prestige.
Do you think that that's actually a big problem that we see in sports coaching and sports coaching development, is that people, one, that potentially they can even access it earlier than they should, and two, do you think that slows their development along the way? I remember hearing someone talk about, and I don't remember who it is, so I apologize, but I remember someone talking about, say, with swimming in the US compared to track and field, our sport, where in track and field, if you were a decent previous athlete, you just start coaching and other elites might be attracted to working with you. Whereas in swimming, someone gave the example that, Phelps couldn't even coach kids or he would have to start coaching kids because their system in the US is you don't start here. You start at the bottom and you have to earn your coaching credentials.
Yeah, and that happens in swimming in Australia as well. Yeah. So that's a very strict sort of license process. Whereas in you can have an elite athlete, and just because they've made a national team, and I'm not sure if the policy is still the same, but they automatically got their level 1 certification without having to do anything. So that from the start was very, very problematic.
Yeah.
But it's just, I think we assume that because they're an elite athlete that they actually know how to coach, and they know all the technical things, when history in sport is riven with elite athletes being parachuted into senior coaching roles and completely screwing things up.